Bill S-209, you'll see that the changes are that we were talking about adding an exception for law enforcement officers for legitimate law enforcement purposes. You'll see that on page 4. Lines 13 and 14. As well as lines 1 and 2. So it's in 2 different places on page 4, actually. Lines 1 and 2 and lines 13 and 14. The penalties for the offense that's related to either returning a unserialized or serialized firearm to someone who has failed a background check, those have been revised, and that's now over on page 7. You'll see subsection D now. So rather than have it be a 1-year misdemeanor for a first offense, you'll see the first offense is now just not more than $2,500 fine. And then a second or subsequent offense, you have the 1 year or $2,500. So first offense is fine only. You have the effective date of December 31st, 2024 also added on page 7. And I think those are the only changes between this draft and the previous one. Yes, that's right.
So, any discussion?
I just want to get on record before we vote. I still have concerns with the 3-day waiting period. I think there was some conflicting statements by Mr. Perra as to when a gun comes in, he puts it into a gunsmith thing, he hands the gun back to him. He doesn't consider a 3-day waiting period. He said he wasn't doing the sterilization of firearms, so if Henry Perra's shop isn't doing it, I know who's going to do it in the state of Vermont. He's one of the larger distributors throughout the state of Vermont. I still have concerns about sterilizing, the polymer guns as far as who's going to do that. Can they do that under the FFL standards? I don't know, but I voted against the 3-day waiting period when the House bill for suicide prevention came in last year. The 3-day waiting period, I assume, is still in here this year, and with the constitutional concerns that I have, I don't think it's come to surprise anybody. I will not be supporting 209.
Thank you. Doesn't come as a surprise. Thank you for your, is there a motion to report?
Senator Bohowski has a question. I certainly appreciate your consistency, but I did want to let you know, I spoke to an FFL owner that I know who says that they are doing this. They use a laser. It takes about 2 minutes. I don't know about the polymer pieces, but I did just want to hopefully allay a little bit of your concern that there's at least one doing it in Vermont.
One's better than none.
Senator,
if the chair will entertain a motion,
I would
move that Senate Judiciary move S-209 favorable.
As amended, draft 4.1.
Yeah.
Senator Baruth has moved that we report favorably S-209 as amended in draft 4.1. Is there any further discussion from anyone, either in the audience or in the committee? Hearing none, Ben, would you please call the roll?
Senator Baruth?
Yes.
Senator Norris?
No.
Senator Bohowski?
Yes.
Senator Sheep?
Yes.
Senator Sears?
Yes, and I appreciate the committee's good hard work on this bill, and I realize that many are opposed, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate their thoughts. But I think this is just part of the public safety effort this year. We're seeing more and more of these firearms in Bennington County and Rutland County, and in talking with law enforcement and others, hopefully we can do something that helps them to deal with the problems we're seeing. And as I said earlier, for me, it may be that our federally licensed firearm dealers are doing a very good job of discouraging straw purchases. So when straw purchases are discouraged, that means that drug dealers and others need other ways to get their firearms, and they're choosing to make them and avoid a background check that way. So I'm appreciative of the committee's vote, and both Senator Campion and I and Senator Baruth were the lead sponsors. I'm wondering if Senator Baruth would be willing to report the bill.
Sure.
Obviously not Friday.
No.
You're gonna step out.
next week sometime.
Okay,
Maybe Wednesday? Because we'll have a full agenda Tuesday.
well, you can take the bill up at your own leisure then.
Okay, I'll come back and get it after an hour or so. So I've got a couple of minutes I have to
Actually,
go.
if you wouldn't mind,
Oh.
because of the changes I just made haven't been edited yet by
Oh.
editors, so might be a little bit later.
Yeah, sure,
Okay?
this
Yeah.
afternoon.
Sure,
Okay,
thank you.
and, Mr. Chair, I know there was a vote on S-278.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I can still record a
Yes.
yes?
Senator Bowski's.
Yeah, so I am a yes on that.
Good for that, and then 500 first.
Yeah.
We're gonna vote on 262, I hope, 163, I mean,
Oh,
as well, later.
okay,
That's the judges.
I am a yes on that as well.
Okay.
What time do you think that vote will be?
Hopefully in about 10 minutes.
Okay, I left some people in my office to vote on this one.
Yeah.
But I'll come back in 10
You
minutes.
can throw them.
I can just run down and give you.
Okay, great, thank you.
That'd be great. Eric, you wanna, committee, thank you for the work on 209. I think it's an important step that we want to take. Personally. I'm with Senator Norris on the 3-day waiting period. I was hoping for a shorter one, so. It is what it is.
I think some states are moving to longer ones.
Yeah, I know. There's an interesting article about trying to explain the public health benefit of firearms versus cigarettes or other things where we say there's a public health benefit, there's a disconnect with people who are, and it was just an interesting column.
Yeah, I'd be interested to read it if you can put your hands on it.
Try to find it. There's a psychiatrist, a psychologist. So Eric, a more mundane bill that may not excite many,
I'm excited.
except judges.
Yes, moving to a different topic, which I cannot seem to locate what I wrote last night. Hopefully you guys all have a committee
We have a
amendment for
committee.
163.
1.1 draft with highlighted
Yes,
yellow.
right. So I'll do it from memory.
You don't have the
Simple.
draft?
I don't, but you have an extra. No, Senator Bihowski just handed me one, thank you, Ben. So, Eric Fitzpatrick with the Office of Legislative Counsel now to, as I mentioned, move to S 163, which is an act relating to establishing 2 superior judge positions. That's as it was initially named, and it just occurred to me that you want to include a name change the same way you just did for S209, probably. Because you'll see the change involves, although as introduced, the bill had created 2 superior judge positions, now it creates 3. And that's the 2 changes that you see on lines 9 and 17, simply change the number 2 to the number 3, because that's what's being done with the legislation now. And there's a new sentence that clarifies, because there's an existing appropriation for 2 of the judges, and that is from the bill as introduced. You see that on line 17, and that amount stays the same. It doesn't change because the proposal contemplates that this 3rd position, the one that's added in the new draft, is going to be funded by tobacco settlement funds, so that there's no need to change the appropriation for the first 2 positions. So that's the only difference, although as I mentioned, you should probably have the title changed now to establishing 3 rather than 2 superior judge positions.
Okay,
I have a
Senator Val.
question. So we heard that when we establish judges, we also need the judicial assistants. Do they need to be named in the bill, or does it just sort of like automatically happen?
I think that they are contemplated in the joint fiscal office report. And that for that reason, they don't necessarily need to be named. And they weren't, for example, this is the language from the budget last year and it didn't. name
Okay, so we don't
specific-
have to create those positions. They come with the creation of a judge position.
I think that's the way it works.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were actually giving the judges what they
Yes,
needed
right. That
to
makes-
do what they need to do.
Right, yes, that makes sense.
So, Eric, the 2 assistants are not in here
Right,
that weren't in the governor's budget. Is that,
they are contemplated in the amount because they were, that number, that figure, the 539,246. Well, actually, that does just for the 2 judges now that I look at
Yeah.
it, so the
So the
assistants are not
numbers-
in there.
should be 708,664.
I think, I was gonna ask about that too. I do think our witnesses, they might have.
Yeah, maybe it
some
depends
product.
whether you're creating these new positions or whether, as you mentioned, Sarah, by Hopsy, whether they are essentially pulling from the existing set, which they would have a better.
All right,
So as far as the staffing, I will defer to Terry
Okay.
on that.
Terry Corson, State Court Administrator. Senator Sears and all, when we submitted our budget request for fiscal year 25, we included 2 superior judges and 10 judicial assistants in accordance with that request. So in my mind, if we're getting 2 judges through this bill, I feel that the judicial assistants are part of the 10 that are in our fiscal year 25 budget request. So that's how I see it, because I do think that if we were to get 2 additional judicial assistants, that's something that would have to be given. It's not necessarily implied in a judge position or automatically included in a judge position. So
So-
we did factor in the 10 judicial assistants with the 2 superior judges in our fiscal year 25 budget request.
that's part of your overall $6 million add to the governor's recommend.
Well, and then it turned out that the governor included 2 judges in his recommendation.
I know.
Right, okay. But,
So you would prefer this bill to just have the 539,246?
I feel that I feel funny saying, no, we don't want judicial assistants but we do, but I feel that it's cleaner, I guess, with the 539, because then it is the 2 judges and that's the amount applicable just to them.
Okay.
But I wanted you to know that we did include the judicial assistants, and it is included in our budget request.
I just want to make sure you get the judicial assistance you need.
Thank you.
Well, that's gonna be part of the appropriations process, because they've asked for roughly 6 million over the governor's recommend in their 2025 budget. So the 10 assistants, quite frankly, is a lesser amount than some of the other requests,
So I just want to, they're asking for it twice, I guess,
Mhm.
and to let you know.
yeah, that would
we did factor
confuse,
in-
I think you're right, that it would confuse matters to put them in this bill.
Okay.
This bill is just for the judges.
If that's all right.
I want to make sure you get what you need. So if that's what you want, that's what I support.
Thank you.
It just concerned me that the fiscal note included those 2 and we didn't include those 2.
Right, and I think that's because they wouldn't have been aware that we already included judicial assistants in our request for the 2 judges, and we're thrilled for this bill and that the governor included the 2 judges. And we'll hope that we get the judicial assistants through our budget request and that we cover those judges.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay, thank you. Is there any, then I guess we don't need to change anything. Is there any, yes,
Yeah,
Senator?
if I could just ask one more clarifying question. I know we went over it last time, this is for the witnesses in the room, but I know we went over it in the last meeting, and I'm just looking at my notes from the settlement fund, and I have on my note that it would save $130,000 a year if we converted that judicial master position to a judge position. Can you just briefly run through that for me one more time so I can take better notes and how that would work?
Currently, Tom Zone, Chief Superior Judge. Currently, we have the judicial master together with a security position as well as a staffing position that goes with it. That's part of the funding for that. I don't have the exact number, I apologize, but that is around $400,000 when you add up the salaries for those three positions that have been traditionally paid out of the tobacco settlement funds. And if we have the judge only, that number comes down to $269,617. And so that would relate to roughly $130,000 less than what would otherwise be utilized from the funds. Because we would not have the special security that was accounted for when that was budgeted under the funds for the master, nor would we have the special judicial assistant who was in there.
Got it. Thank you.
I do think the bill needs the little clause added in to change the title. Because the title is related to 2 Superior Court judges, but we're actually making 3.
With no period, sadly.
With no period, sadly, but other than that,
Do you want to suggest?
oh no, I got a new one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Is that a change that can be done
Very quickly.
very quickly?
Yeah.
And I would suggest that since there's 3 of us here, we know, and you're going to get Senator Baruth when we're ready to vote, and Senator Norris, I'm sure, is supportive of me, can vote later. We'll get Senator
I'll
Baruth.
go get Senator Booth.
I think we're ready to vote. I think Senator Sheen is going to make a motion.
Okay, to keep the live going and all that?
Yeah.
I will do that.
Want me to make that motion when he gets back?
No, okay. You're good.
Pardon me?
Want me to make that motion when he gets back?
Yeah. Yeah,
And so will this
sure, Bill.
make a pass-through appropriations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll go directly to appropriations once you take it up, and then it will, I don't know what they'll do. They may authorize the position and not put the money in until the budget. They may strip the money out, which is something they do. But in this case, I'm not sure they would. I think they want to authorize, since it's in the governor's budget, they might leave it in. I don't think these 2 judgeships are in any, they're pretty much agreed on by the administration. I hope the House.
And sometimes they do wild things over there.
Well, I know, you never know for sure.
He's on his way.
Great, thank you.
You all should have your raise the age folders already for
Yep.
next section.
What time is that, Ben? Is that
10:45, well, but Commissioner Winters is already outside, so whenever.
I already handed out the document,
Oh, okay, great,
because we had 10 minutes or so, and I did that.
great. Should the raise the age and the Big 12 pieces, I know that the idea is if they go, they're going in S58. But for discussion purposes, should they be in the next version of S58 that you look at? Or do you want to wait and talk about it
I
first?
don't know,
or-
wait and talk, I think. They could also go in the bail bill, I suppose. Be easier in S58, but
Doesn't matter for us. I just want to make sure, whether you want them in yet, or do you still want to talk about
I
them
think
some more?
58, I think we want to make them amendments, and I think this morning we'll have a clearer picture on raise the age, whether we're gonna be able to come to an agreement with the administration on raise the age.
Okay,
I had a rather good meeting yesterday with staff from DCF, the administration, and support. So I I think we're getting somewhere.
Good.
The Big 12 issue is still open. Made my last one, but, you know, we've got the amendment out there that I'm not sure the committee will adopt, but.
Right.
Okay, so, great, thank you, Senator. Senator Sheem has moved that we report favorably draft 1.1 of S-163, recognizing that it'll go to appropriations. Is there any other conversation? Anybody in the audience who wants to comment before we vote? So, Ben, if you would call the roll on S-163.
Senator Byrd,
Yes.
Senator Norris will get his vote later, Senator Bohowski,
Yes.
Senator Sheem,
Yes,
and Senator Sears.
Yes. Senator Sheem, you want to report this?
happy to report
That'd
it.
be great, thank you.
Quick clarification, will I be reporting it on the floor and then asking the body to
No,
transfer?
it'll automatically be sent to appropriations because it has money in it.
Okay.
Pursuant to Rule 31.
Exactly.
Senator, Secretary, tell the Lieutenant Governor to send it to the clerks.
Okay, so I don't have to make any motions?
No,
Okay.
unless you really want to fight with approach and say, I don't want this bill going there.
Yeah, no, I think I'll pass, that's not.
Have a vote on that.
That's not the fight you're gonna
Yeah,
have with
no.
the president.
It doesn't sound like a fight you'd win. But as we saw, somebody can lose 29-1 and
Still hold their head.
okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break and thank you, Judge Sone and
Thank you.